Hello, and welcome to another episode of Effing the Ineffable. I'm Lani Milbus, and today I want to talk about Thelemic Love, specifically how it relates to desire, which is of another nature. So desire, Crowley often speaks about indulging in sense desires, taking wines that foam, and a lot of sexual ritual and sexual practices. And I mean, as we know, he indulged in several drugs and things of that nature. And it seems to be a pretty common interpretation that these are the things of his religion, that these are essentially treated as the objects of worship. You take the drug, therefore you're doing the thing. And I disagree with this. So Crowley speaks about indulging in sense desires, but usually that's in a manner that the Book of the Law states in the chapter of Nuit as being unto me. So it's unto another purpose, not the desire itself, not the sense pleasure itself, but those are taken unto Nuit, or the infinite body of God. And this is the nature of the two loves, and this is a it's a little bit of a hazy line for some, but the Book of the Law, he also states, "Nor let the fools mistake love, for there are love and love. There is the dove and there is the serpent. Choose ye well." And so by that, it can be safely inferred that not all love is of true will. Some things that we call love, which he refers to as human love in some of his comments in the Book of Lies and other places, he refers to human love as being distinct from the Thelemic love, the real love. Love for an individual, in this sense, it typically relates to what we can get from them. We feel happy when they're around. They satisfy our sense of loneliness, our sense of longing. They provide something for us. And that is the basis of the love. We love them because we get something from them. This can be different. This can be like a love for a child is typically not so heavily swayed by what we get from them. But in a sense, it's still there somewhat. It is that they satisfy temporarily our desire. Therefore, this type of love is a result of desire and is of the nature of desire. And also it's of the nature of division, as in we are not complete in our satisfaction of our desires without this love. So it's recognizing a division. Loving is more than that. In the Thelemic sense, in the true sense. In truth, this is going to be a false love. Anything that's seeking to get something is a false love, though it may contain some of the essence of the true love. So it's not like, hey, just stop doing this, stop indulging in these, stop. That's not at all what I believe anyone else is saying. It's just that is not the goal. And it's temporary. It's a false love that contains, it's like training wheels. It's containing some of the essence of the real thing, but it isn't the real thing. So this one love is of the sensory things, the material or the maya, the illusion, and it's a stepping stone toward the true love. The objects of desire cannot be taken with us from this material world. So how could they be the goal? If they're not permanent, they're temporary, they're fleeting. This is all temporary. Anything temporary is of the illusion, is of the material world, cannot be seen as concrete. I'll use the word reality loosely here. We know that Nuit, however, is infinite. And so only love of that nature is lasting, is real, anything infinite. And there, again, we come back to that command from the Book of the Law, unto me, take all of these things, love these things unto me. You're really loving Nuit through these things, recognizing the infinite nature behind the form, behind the illusion, and not getting wrapped up in the illusion. Chapter 15, it's called The Gun Barrel from the Book of Lies. It alludes to this, and it begins with I'll read here. Mighty and erect is this will of mine, this pyramid of fire, whose summit is lost in heaven. And heaven is a capital H there. So that distinguishes it from the celestial bodies or the heaven of hermetics, which is based on planetary forces. This is heaven, capital H, infinite. Upon it have I burned the corpse of my desires. So here we see that this path, this will that Crowley is talking about, does not increase desire. It does not yield to or serve desire. It burns the corpse of the desires. So Crowley advocated often in indulgence of sense pleasures and of these desires. But in every example, for him, it seems to serve to rid him of the desire, only as a means to exhaust them, to rid the soul of the distraction of the material desires unto Nuit. So basically creating these sensory experiences in order to offer them to the infinite, to increase his love unto the infinite body of God and God itself, which are not two. We'll get into that. This love of which I'm speaking is known as bhakti. It's already there. And Crowley would have been very familiar and would have known this. It's, I believe, why he places bhakti yoga, bhakti yoga, on the path of AA after all of the others. So you're doing Raja Yoga, you work into Gyan Yoga as a practicus, and then up through bhakti, to bhakti, right before Tifereth, or the supreme attainment from the outside, the outer order of AA. So bhakti yoga is the focus. It's what brings us to our angel. So bhakti is the most accessible and natural method of yoga within the Vedas. It's commonly stated. Then yoga means union with God. So all of those things are meant to unite with God or realize the union with God. Union with God through love for God is the basic definition of bhakti. The second verse of this chapter, the Gun Barrel in the Book of Lies, confirms this as he talks about the seed, which is the seed born within me, he says, is lost within the infinite, within the body of Our Lady of the Stars. So he's talking about Hadit, is this seed born within us that he's offering up through his will, which he refers to as a phallus, into the body of Nuit, and it's getting lost. It's being joined with Nuit in the realization of the oneness of God, as above, so below. And the chapter ends with, this is the night wherein I am lost, the love through which I am no longer I. There's the word love used properly in a Thelemic sense, not human love. And this is the Thelemic act. It cannot be performed as long as we are lost in the sensory desires of the individual. Therefore, really no other love is Thelemic unless it is offered in this manner, with this goal, the one true will, not, the fleeting and multitude of sense desires and distractions of the ego. The garrote is another chapter of the Book of Lies, which expounds upon this as it. It's the thing that it does. This is chapter 31 of the Book of Lies, and since I won't read the whole thing here, I'd recommend you read it over if you wish to follow along. But it's the garrote, which is an instrument of bondage that was used for slavery around the throat. And the number is 31. And 31, this being a Kabbalistic text, a Kabbalistic exposition essentially, 31 is the nature of Aleph Lamed, or Lamed Aleph, which is not and al. Or in other words, this number known as the key to understanding the book of the law. So the it in this chapter is capital I, capital T, is the secret nature of the true will, which is universal because nothing else exists and must therefore be false. So this one it is the only true will. So it does that one thing, he says in the chapter, which we must express by two things, dividing God into Nuit and Hadit, internal and external, neither of which possesses any rational meaning. So basically saying that we have this division, and we'll get to that in a second. So by this he refers to the essence of relation as being falsehood, because there is one infinite, not two infinites. Illustrated in the third verse of this chapter, again, so he talks about the relation there and how it's not even out of relation with itself, obviously. So again, the book of the law corroborates this with the line, "For I am divided for love's sake, for the chance of union. This is the creation of the world." So it's the one thing divided. The world and the infinite are divided simply to be united. Our true will is to realize the union and the illusory nature of division. There is nothing else. Anything else is a deviation from this. So unto me, all acts, all everything unto me. Swami Vivekananda says a similar thing. He says, to discern truth, ask if it unites. If it divides, it is false. If it unites, it is truth. One cannot attain yoga without this. You cannot attain a oneness with God and hold out that there is something else. If we love God or human with the expectation of getting anything, of meeting any need other than simply loving, that is not love. It is desire, as I stated before. The way to set this aright is to turn those desires to God, to realize that our sense of lack is born from a lack of love for God within ourselves. Turning every desire in our minds, every action, into something that increases our love for God is the means of liberation from Maya and this attainment. And God is eager to meet this devotee, a bhakti who makes these efforts. If we take one step, God will take the rest, the other 999 steps, or however many. Talking about 1,000. But we have to take that one step. God isn't going to do it all for us. That's not how it works. That's one way. That's taking. So once we give, then we receive, but we receive infinite. We receive everything. There is nothing left to desire after we have given of ourselves, drained all within the cup. So unto me means to seek only to love God in all things. We can't do this if we're a slave to our desires, if we're, focused upon what we can get or how we can feel with certain things upon the world. We can't do this. So focused upon all of our material wants is of the ego. That's all ego stuff. And it's of illusion, and it's a denial of the existence of the one attainment. It's like focusing on the finger that points to the moon, in Bruce Lee's analogy. You're looking at the finger while pointing to the moon instead of beholding the glory which made the finger point in the first place. It's just missing the point. And that is why there are love and love. So I know one Thelemite here, is probably thinking, like, this is so old aeon. Crowley brought a new religion. How can its message be the same as the Vedas and the Christ and the Taoist? And, this is nonsense. But it is the same message. This message, Crowley himself recognize the one God as the source of all the various forms, just as the Hindus did. There's nothing different in that. There's nothing new in that. If the infinite is one, how can there be two? How can there be a new message? How can there be a new spiritual truth? There isn't. Of course, the message is the same in all the spiritual truths. It has to be. There's only one infinite truth, one infinite thing. It's only the word and the style that changes with the aeons, not the truth. Truth is truth. It's eternal. It's we who appear to change in our relationship to that truth. So that's why we need new aeons and new other things, is to chase down the humans that are running away from the truth. Show them the other model. Swami Sarva Prayananda, he had a joke about this. It's kind of apropos. It's really, I thought it was pretty funny, but it said the dying God model, it created a God-shaped hole in human consciousness. We killed off the concept of God, of this one infinite reality, and now humankind is looking to fill that God-shaped hole. And the joke, and he's loving of Buddhists, not, he's just showing that all of these religious truths are the same by saying that the Buddhist replaced this God-shaped hole with a hole-shaped God. It's just, I like that. It's a pretty funny joke, because it's all, every truth is the same truth. It's not two truths. So Crowley calls God, or this one truth, will, or thelema. And so we're to do God, essentially, as the it, capital I, capital T, from the garrote. So from chapter 31, and he's saying, do it. And in his philosophy, God is more like a verb than a noun. It's a doing. It's an intent. It's beyond a thing or a desire, a thing to get, or something that we're worshiping or anything else. It's something we strive toward to become. We act as this thing, to put it in kind of practical terms. So in its infancy, Thelema is still trying to figure out this paradox of I do my true will. One says that I am doing my true will. The I and the my are where the mistake is made by indulging in the sensory diversions, and this is so it's true and false. So since all is God, it's true, because you can't really do anything that's not of God or outside of God or that's not part of will, if we're using the word will substituted for God here. If it's not, so everything is essentially within the infinite. Okay, I give you that. It's true. You are doing the infinite because you're part of the infinite, but if it's not done consciously with the intent that it increases our love for God and the realization of the I of our being as being the universal God, the truth of ourselves beyond our ego, beyond our intellect, beyond all of these human things, is the universal God. As the Bhagavad Gita says, God is the sentience of the sentient, is the essence, the very existence is the God. So that is the I. So it's only the ego if we're saying I, as in a human me, human Lani is doing his true will. That's ego talk. And it's actually keeping me from the great work, which is to realize the kingdom of heaven is right here, right now, with God as the truth of the I of me and the I of you, universal, infinite, and immortal. That realization is born of the love, or anyway, that's the bhakti is the quickest path to that. Any other form of yoga is going to provide the same thing if you have all of the qualifications and the perseverance, but bhakti is available to everyone. So that love is the love of Thelema. Love is the law, love under will. So love is the essence of all action, of all thought, of all life. But it is only under will. It is the love of God, love of that one truth, that one infinite, which, as the Hindus say, or as Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about it being much easier to accomplish with a form, if you hold God in a form and adore and love that, than the formless, but, to each his or her own there. But yeah, that's it. That is the love. The desire is not. The desire cannot be of will, cannot be of true will. So desires maybe are little stepping stones, as I said, on the paths, and we don't immediately just lose all of our desires in a moment. That's not the way it works. We have to focus every day, taking every act and making that act something, an offering, essentially, of this is, I eat this food in order to fortify my body, to offer it to God, to offer it to true will, to live through this body, through this being, this humanness. And we yield ourselves. So we yield all of those little desires eventually, but all of the desires and the indulging, as Crowley showed, are a way to do that. We exhaust the desire in order to get them out of the way, in order for this one true will to become our way. And gradually we are removed. This is the love through which I am no longer I, he says. So yeah, that is my thought on Thelemic Love and the interpretations that I get out of it. And I'll just end with kind of another quote from Liber 65, chapter 3, which I think is appropriate and upon this theme, and it is that, in the one and the many have I found thee, yea, I have found thee.